Hey August, this is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. We're going to go through and talk a little bit about your mechanics, talk about your delivery, and especially at this point at your age, we got to make sure that we're sort of understanding the foundation of our delivery and our mechanics, and really using our lower half so that when we get older, when we get stronger, it's going to be a lot easier to sort of get everything synced up, to get that timing, and to use our legs. We got to get you using more of that lower half. And as you get older, get stronger again, it's going to be something that will be easier, and it might not be physically possible right now for you, but if you kind of understand the foundation of it and get rolling with it now, it's going to come easier for you. All right, so first off out the bat, I know even though we're just kind of running through on flat ground, throwing, anytime you're doing your pitching motion, always treat it like, it's a game speed. Don't just roll through your motion. You can see you just kind of pick up the ball and go here, pick up the ball, and then just kind of roll through it. Make sure that you always have some intent. Pretend like there's a pitching mound right here set up. Look into the catcher. Treat every delivery anytime, even if you're just playing catch. Treat it like you would a game like pitch. All right, so that's just sort of an easy thing for you to do. All right, so what we look for right here, all right, as we get going through the motion, is we got to make sure our head's staying over our back foot. All right, so you're doing a good job at through that initial delivery. All right, kind of keeping that head back. Your eyes are on the target. All right, this is a good position to be in here. All right, so now what we look at is we look at this front knee. All right, and we're going to watch where it is when it gets to its highest point. All right, so you can see it's still going up. So right here is your highest point in your leg kick. All right, so now this is the starting block. This picture right here is the biggest one of the biggest driving points of mechanics. If you're going to be able to use your lower half, if you're going to be in the right position, this dictates so much of how you're going to finish that we got to really harp on this initial setup, because it just does so much for us in getting us in that right position. Okay, so what we look for here is we look for, all right, head over the back foot. You're doing a good job there. All right, so that's good. Then what we look for is what our lower half is set up like. All right, this area right here, your hips, your posterior chain, that's where all that power comes from. That's where that velocity comes from. That's the whole engine of your mechanics. That's just what drives everything. So we got to make sure that this is set up in the right spot to lead us down the mound. We want our hips to lead us down our mound, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit more. But basically what we want to see here is we want to see this foot move back over this back foot a little bit more. All right, that just closes off our hips a little bit more. So now we're in a little bit better position to get our hips to lead, because right here you can see your foot's basically parallel to your hip, and so that's generally not going to get it in the right position. We just want to get it closed a little bit more over this back foot. All right. Second biggest thing is we got to make sure that at this point our hands are still together. So we got to make sure that ball's back up in the glove. All right. We don't break our hands until our hips start forward. All right. So right here, and I'll discuss this a little bit later, but your arm just is going to have to start early. It gets ahead of your body, and I'll show you what happens there. All right, so what we want to try to do now, all right, so our hands are together, our knees back a little bit more. Now what we want, the timing issue, we got to make sure we're timing the delivery right, so we're timing our motion. So we want to, at this point now, get our hips going forward, all right, and then all this foot's going to do, this heel, is just going to kind of fall down and stay behind your hip. All right, then that ball pops out in your glove. All right, so as you're going forward, what's going to kind of look like is, maybe about right here, your back foot's still out here. So that's what I mean by leading by your hip. Your hip's still out in front of your foot. All right, so maybe you're right here at this position. All right, that heel's still facing backwards, and then you just got to get that hip just driving, closing, and getting as far down as you can. Your front foot shouldn't be popping out until you're gaining some ground back here. So So you can see you're really not, you know, this knee isn't getting past this foot, you know, until about right here, and everything's already out. You know, at about this point here is when we're probably going to start seeing that foot start turning open. All right, so you're just opening up a little bit early, not using all those legs. All right, and then when you land, if you were to draw a line, you can kind of see you're landing open. So just take a line from that back foot straight to the catcher, and just try to land somewhere, you know, on that line to a little bit closed off, and that'll get everything going hips-wise. All right, we want to get to a point where we land, hips start to come forward first, and then the upper body comes through first or afterwards. So you can see here, you know, you're basically your hips and shoulders are turning at the same time, which at your age is fine. All right, it's just it's something that is strength oriented. So you know, when you get older, it'd be a lot easier for you. So now we're going to look at that arm. All right, we talked about how it broke early. Now what you're going to watch it do is because it's early, it's got to come up here and find some time to kind of sync up with your body. And what that does is that gets your arm to this point right here. All right, so at foot strike, your elbow's up above that shoulder. Once we get that elbow above shoulder height, that starts putting strain on that shoulder capsule. All right, we want to try to get that elbow at this foot strike here somewhere around shoulder height. You know, there can be a little bit of play up, a little bit of play down, you know, but once we get that elbow that high up, especially as you get older and start throwing harder, that shoulder's going to take a lot of that load. Just kind of pinches that capsule there. So we got to make sure that this elbow's staying down a little bit more, and that will happen if you break your hands a little bit later. So your arm's just ahead of itself. It kind of has to go up and try to find some time to sync up to your body, and so when you kind of get that a little bit better timing, it's going to kind of fix itself a little bit. All right. So now at foot strike, another thing we want to try to see is more load on this back side. We want to see load on that hip and that knee, and we can tell that you're a little bit out front because that knee's about over your ankle. At foot strike, we want to try to have that foot a little bit farther out in front of your knee, because that's just showing us that your load's a little bit out over this front foot. All right. One thing that will kind of help that is to keep this shoulder up and keep it closed a little bit longer. All right, just keep that left shoulder on line, keep it closed, you know, all the way through your release. So we should still be seeing this glove out front here. All right. So what your arm's going to do is that elbow's just going to rotate down to this position, you know, and then you're gonna find yourself in there as you're out front. All right. So then that elbow just rotates down, that glove stays out. And then what we're able to do is drive through release, all right? So you're going to see this back foot pop up off the ground, and you're going to see yourself release the ball at this spot right here. All right, we want to see your head and your chest down over your front foot, so you can see you're still behind your front foot. So the more we can stay on line, the more we can drive through our foot. We want to see that foot still on the ground, creating an angle like this. So now we're out front over that front foot. We're just using more legs, more body. You know, we're just not using so much arm. We want to try to maximize our body. All right, we want to take as much strain out of our arm as we can and distribute it, you know, to that lower body. So just the more you can stay in those legs, and then you're going to see yourself finish with that back, you know, almost flat to the ground, and that this back foot, you know, somewhere back over here somewhere. All right, so as you finish here, you know, you're finishing out here, and then that back just keeps going down because you're using so much, you got so much energy, so much power going, that weight's going forward. All right, and so basically just something to be aware of as you get older and that strength comes, because it's a tough motion to really get going. But just again, using that lower half, using those legs, you're going to be good to go. So hopefully you had fun at camp. Thanks for making it out, and we look forward to seeing you again with ABC.